get things done. We love African accents. To find out more, visit absa.co.za. And now, the main news on Radio Chingalo, brought to you by Wolf Milling. Radio Chingalo, so that we may be one through the cross. Good afternoon. With the main news, I'm Kennedy Mbeo Jr. And kindly be informed that we are also streaming live on the Radio Chingalo Facebook page to you following us on social media. Here are the headlines. Vaccinated population in Kitwe stands at 18%. Public schools to be audited on grant use. Zambia women's under-20 national football team coach draws lessons from the loss. The details. At least 18% of the population in Kitwe has been vaccinated against COVID-19 within the month of December. Kitwe District Health Office Community Health Focal Point person Matilda Kasanda disclosed this during the Red Cross Society of Zambia sponsored program on COVID-19 on Radio Chingalo last Friday. Mrs. Kasanda said the district is targeting to vaccinate at least 30% of the population by 31st December 2021.
We are using a number of modalities to ensure that we catch as many people, and as we are aware that the Minister of Health has given us a mandate, a huge mandate to ensure that we vaccinate about 30% of our population, and we just have to do that by the end of 31st December. We need to ensure that everyone is vaccinated. I think for now we are somewhere above 18%.
And speaking on the same program, Kitwe District Health Promotions Officer Oliver Chileshe cautioned the residents against paying attention to the lies being spread about COVID-19 vaccine.
We have got a lot of sources of information, and that has brought confusion. Okay, so as we are advising that, we have got credible sources where, if you want issues pertaining to health, there is the World Health Organization, and there's even a site there. Even on your gadget, you can access. You can read properly. There is competing of information, and in life, I think rumors travel faster than even the truth.
Kitwe District Education Board Secretary Debs Christopher Nyingila says there will be strict monitoring of how school grants will be utilized as government gets ready to implement the free education policy in public schools next year. Speaking on Open Talk program last Friday, Mr. Nyingila explained that all the schools will be audited to ensure prudent use of the grant. He further explained that committees have been formed and that schools should submit their respective budgets before government can release the grant. Mr. Nyingila has also clarified that the same grant will be used to pay supporting staff in schools such as guards, gardeners, and cleaners. And speaking on the same program, Zambia National Union of Teachers, Kitwe District Chairman Owen Mtonga said teachers have welcomed the free education policy. Mr. Mtonga further said the union expects government to also address the issue of salary scale for teachers who have upgraded their qualifications. ZESCO says the continued vandalism of its infrastructure by unscrupulous people is leading to power failure on the copper belt, especially at night. Company Mufulira Regional Manager Mike Weluzani Banda explained that vandalism is still rampant in the province, hence the need for concerted efforts from the general public in curtailing the growing vice. Mr. Banda said this when he featured on Radio Chingalo's Face to Face with the community program yesterday.
And some of these situations we call power cuts are not really power cuts, are faults which are largely affected by the vandals. And on your side, when you see power is off, and you say, oh, ZESCO is carrying out these power cuts and all that stuff, and then we go into repairing and replacing and taking all this time, and then it's interpreted as power cut, when it's not power cut, it's vandals. I think, there's been a narrative here, and I think to some extent it carries weight. From the time when this copper thing prices started increasing, that is when we saw the issue of vandalism also taking a steep streak going up.
Governance and political analyst Maxim Moore says so far the new Dawn government has scored in areas such as uniting the country, depoliticizing markets and bus stations, and managing to clinch a bailout from the International Monetary Fund (IMF). Mr. Moore said the UPND government has also managed to enhance the rule of law, something he said was never experienced in the previous regime. He observed that these are positive indicators to show that Zambia is in safe leadership hands with a desire to ultimately serve the people. Mr. Simwe has since appealed to the Zambian people to be patient and give President Hakainde Hichilema time to restore the economy, adding that change was gradual.
And focus on our biggest enemy, which is poverty. Realizing also that we have lived together for more than 50 years was a clear demonstration to say that Zambia can again unite. Coming from a background where there was systematic ethnic bias. Number two, the idea of depoliticizing statutory bodies vis-a-vis bus stations, bus stops, and with an earnest decree that no gender should be found in bus stations. And the other thing that I would bring out is something that has sparked debate, because some people look at it in a lopsided view. This is to do with managing to clinch a bailout from the IMF.
In other news, the Drug Enforcement Mission has jointly charged and arrested 2 people of Chingola on the Copper Belt for trafficking in 30 bottles of codeine. The commission has identified the suspects as Sunday Siluyele, a male adult aged 39 of Nachola Road in Chingola, and Greg Chanda, also male adult aged 23 of 12 the Street House number 36 in Chingola. DEC Public Relations Officer Matthias Kamanga has said in a statement availed to Radio Chingla News that the suspects are currently in police custody and are yet to appear in court. In sports, Zambia has failed to progress to the next stage of the Costa Rica 2022 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers. This follows a slender 1-0 loss to Ghana in an away fixture played at Cape Coast Stadium yesterday. Coach Charles Halobono said the defeat was a learning process for the team. He described the game as a good test for the players and the technical bench.
I think Ghana is more exposed to international games than our girls. So we are slowly growing, and this has been a good test for us, including myself as a coach. Playing countries like Ghana, who have played at the World Cup before, it's a good privilege for us. We'll keep on and pick it up from there. We'll try our best to get to a level.
And Zambian captain Everine Katongo regretted her team's failure to convert the created chances.
They didn't give us the competition we expected. Today we didn't play how we played that day in Zambia. In Zambia they gave us competition, but today they did not give us much competition. Though we managed to score, we managed to create chances, but we failed to score. But then they only had 1 chance and they managed to score.
This news broadcast comes to you in the community service of Radio Chingla with compliments over Moose Milling. And now international news as monitored from the BBC.
Several European countries have introduced tough new restrictions to tackle COVID as the Omicron variant spreads rapidly across the continent. A month-long lockdown is coming into effect in the Netherlands, where the Prime Minister said immediate action was needed in order to avoid hospitals being overwhelmed. A Dutch journalist, Ad van Oosten, says the government is very worried.
The problem is that we don't have very many intensive care beds. So our hospitals are very quickly crowded, and that means that all other sources of medical care, apart from coronavirus, are now extended. So people who get an operation for their legs or the heart or whatever are postponed till next year. So there is a big problem with our healthcare now.
Denmark, Ireland and Switzerland are all stepping up or reintroducing restrictions. Chile is holding a runoff vote today in the most polarized presidential election since the end of military rule in the country in 1990. It's traditionally been considered South America's most stable economy, but there have been 2 years of violent protests sparked by extreme social inequality. Chilean voters must choose between Gabriel Boric, a former student protest leader, and a far-right lawyer, Jose Antonio Katz. From Santiago, here's Katie Watson.
In Jose Antonio Cast's closing rally, the conservative father of 9 promised his supporters that Chile would never be ruled by communists. He's accused the left of painting him in a bad light. This is a man who's been likened to Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro and to Donald Trump. After 2 years of protests, Mr. Cast believes the country needs order. But his rival, Gabriel Boric, says that what Chile needs is change. These elections may be about the country's future, but the candidates know that they can rely on the fear of the past to sway their voters, many of whom are undecided.
The Japanese government's ordered the inspection of 30,000 office buildings that have only one staircase after a fire that killed 24 people. Michael Bristow reports.
The fire broke out in a mental health clinic on the 4th floor of an 8-story building in Osaka. Near a stairwell, that was the only escape route. Police believe one of the clinic's patients, a 61-year-old man, deliberately started the blaze using a flammable liquid. He's in a critical condition in hospital. His motive is unclear. The government has now ordered an inspection across Japan of other office blocks with a single staircase to try and prevent a similar accident.
People in Hong Kong are voting in an election where every candidate's been vetted for their loyalty to Beijing. It's the first poll since China tightened its control over the territory by reforming its political system. Turnout so far appears to be substantially lower than a district council election 2 years ago. BBC News.
On that note, we end this afternoon's main news on Radio Chengelo, Sunday, day number 19 in the month of December. For these and more stories, feel free to visit Radio Chengelo on Facebook. You can as well listen to Radio Chengelo by streaming live on www.radiochengelo.org. That's our website. Remember, COVID-19 is real. Follow the COVID-19 protocols. And on behalf of the entire news team, my name is Kennedy Berry Jr. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you very much for watching, to you who are watching us on Facebook. Have yourself a lovely afternoon.